How's it going, guys? Swaggins here. Today I will be doing the first of many guides for specific matchups for Volibear in the top lane. Today we will be covering Aatrox and how to play against him effectively. Let's get started. First, we should go over how Aatrox as a champion works and what are his strengths and weaknesses. Before we get into that really quick, I just want to go over the runes. You should just be taking Press the Attack with Legend Haste for the ability haste, because ability haste matters a lot in this matchup, as well as Coup de Grace, Bone Plating, and Shield Bash. Aatrox is an ability-oriented champion, meaning most of his kit and damage revolves around his abilities and not his auto attacks. Now, a lot of champions with kits like this have very long cooldowns, especially in the early game. What this means is you can take advantage of it. Now, because he is ability-oriented, a lot of his damage revolves around hitting the sweet spots on his Q, so it's best to avoid these as best as you can. Another thing to avoid in the laning phase is his enhanced auto from his passive. That does a bunch of damage, and it heals him a good amount. The best thing to do is not trade autos with him when he has this up, and wait for him to use it on a minion while CSing. For the first wave, all you want to do is to bait out his Q by walking up to an attack a minion and then back away. He's going to look to harass you with his first primary Q at the beginning of every lane. Now that his Q is down for at least 14 seconds, I can look for wave prio. So I start to shove. Like I talked about in my Volibear guide video, you should always look to get prio in the wave so that you can get level 2 before they can to get an incredible engage off. Aatrox does not win against Volibear in the early game, and Volibear always beats Aatrox in an auto attack battle, especially when you have PTA. Ideally, Aatrox wants to space you to get constant Q sweet spots off at a distance. So if you were able to close the gap on him, you're able to crush him. Now, I talked about paying attention to his abilities and their cooldowns, but the most important ability is his E. His dash is incredibly important to pay attention to, because the moment his dash is on cooldown, you can run at him and just straight up auto attack him to death. There's nothing he can do. Every Aatrox will either look to dash Q you or Q, then dash Q as a harassment during the laning phase. Right after he does this, it is the prime time to go in. If he ever walks up slightly close to you, you can just go in on him and win the fight. This Aatrox does not have flash, and I know I win an all-in fight versus him, so the moment he dash Qs towards me, I immediately ult him because I know I win that fight just outright. That is why you also benefit greatly from being on top of him, because he cannot reliably hit the sweet spots on his first and second Q, shredding his damage in half. Now, this doesn't mean you win every trade. If he happens to hit a lot of his Qs, maybe 2 sweet spots, and he resets his passive twice, you could easily die. Here I got hit by most of his abilities, and the wave was pushing into me, so it was a very bad fight for me to take. Now, to make sure you don't take a lot of damage from Aatrox, you have to understand that even when you're on him, he still can do a good bit of damage, even when he hits some of his Qs, even if they're not the sweet spots. The best way to mitigate this is to learn how to space in between autos. So auto and move in a direction, auto, move in a direction. You want to be unpredictable. So switch directions up and down, left and right. You want to be bob and weaving constantly so that it's hard for him to hit any of his Qs on you. And this can only get better for you as you buy boots. That's why, especially on your first back, you want to be getting boots versus Aatrox, because movement speed is very important for doing this. Not only for getting on top of him, but dodging his Qs when you're on top of him. The more movement speed you have, it's just so much easier to do this, and it makes it so you can dodge things way more flawlessly. The moment I get on top of him, I'm immediately moving back and forth on the opposite side of him, beneath him. Sometimes I'm even delaying an auto just to dodge his Q, which throws him off. Utilize this when you're on top of him. Doing this correctly will always result in a winning trade and or a free kill. It is possible to engage on him even when his E is up. It's just very difficult, and you have to predict where he's going to dash with your E to land the Q on top of it. It's very dangerous, and I would only do it in some situations where you know you won't get punished hard, because if you do it and he spaces you correctly, you will be punished severely. There's still benefits to running at him though. If he spaces you correctly with an EQ and resets your Q, a lot of the times they're not ready for your Q to be right back up. Sometimes they don't think about your Q resetting and they'll walk back up. This is a great time to go in with your ulti or Q again and catch them off guard. Another thing is when Aatrox ults, it's probably best to disengage until his ulti is over. His ulti gives him an ungodly amount of Omnivamp, which means he can survive a lot longer than you think he can. Most of the time, I will usually back off when they ult ulti and just re-engage when they don't have ulti. Another thing is it gives him a massive boost of movement speed. This is one of his greatest abilities that helps him space you even more, which can result in you dying if you're not playing it correctly. Next, I want to talk about if you are able to get his flash, then you have a massive advantage of lane. If you get him even just below half or half HP, you can just immediately flash combo him and it's basically a free kill. I talked about this in my guide video, but it's basically the same premise. You're just getting them low, around half HP, a little bit below half HP, so you can do a flash combo, which will basically kill them. And it leaves for almost no counterplay as long as you do it correctly. Yo, the auto went off. Bluetooth auto. This is another example here. It's just a simple tower dive with the flash combo. You always want to be looking for this in your games for virtually all champions, including Aatrox. Lastly, I just want to talk about items briefly. You will basically be doing exactly what I talked about in my Volibear guide that I released a couple weeks ago. You will be going Cosmic Drive into either Iceborne Gauntlet or Spirit Visage depending on the enemy team comp. You don't really need more damage. Rockabelle is fine though, or even Riftmaker is okay. If you are losing, I would recommend building Bramble Vest and building more tank. Overall, the summary of this lane is that Aatrox benefits most in the lane when he is fighting you at a distance with his Qs, and your goal is to close the gap and get on top of him. You objectively win every single fight if you are even in gold, in an auto attack battle if you get on top of him. So your goal during the laning phase is to look for those openings and get on top of him. I appreciate you guys watching this video. I hope you learned something, and if you have any questions, please leave it in the comments and I'll try my best to answer you. Please leave a like and please subscribe, and comment below what type of champion you would like me to do next, as I can cover a multitude of champions, and I will work on either Darius next or somebody else. But if you have somebody else in mind, please let me know in the comments and I might make a video on them. Thanks for watching.